Gwinnett's young professional community has seen significant growth over the last decade. From college students to young entrepreneurs, emerging leaders are finding a sense of belonging in Gwinnett, and you know what? We're glad of that. But in this episode, I'll speak with one of those glowing professionals and rising leaders, Jasmine Billings. Jasmine serves as the Community Development Manager in the city of Lawrenceville, and she is also the chair of Gwinnett Young Professionals. Welcome to Better Together, Jasmine.
Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. For those of us, and I know a little bit, and others may not know anything about you, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So actually grew up here in Gwinnett. Went to Brookwood High School, graduated in 2009, yes. Lawrenceville, Snellville area was where I frequented most. After high school, went to Georgia Southern University in Statesboro. So on a track scholarship, very exciting. Lots of long-lasting friendships from there.
Are you still running?
I am not. I've paid my dues in the running world, and now I just bike. I like cycling a lot more. But went to Georgia Southern University on a scholarship, and then graduated with a sports administration background. Went and got my master's at Georgia State in sports administration. And it's interesting because I'm not in sports currently.
Right.
Local government, very different world, but a lot of transferable skills.
So are you not currently working on your master's now?
I am currently working on my master's now.
Another master's?
Another master's, yes ma'am. At,
ambitious.
Thank you. UNC, Chapel Hill, and so in public administration. What I learned, I love sports. I always thought that I was going to do community relations within sports.
Right.
And then came to Lawrenceville in 2017 as an event coordinator, realized I have a lot of impact here in the grassroots level.
Yes.
And really wanted to hone in on that experience. And so this master's that I'm partaking in now will really help me learn some foundational tools for public administration.
Okay, but can you share more about your role in the city of Lawrenceville?
Absolutely. And so I wear a lot of different hats in Lawrenceville, which is really nice. No day looks the same for me. I manage our downtown businesses. So like I'm the liaison to communicate with the downtown businesses on just different things that are happening, road closures, events that are coming up. I manage film in Lawrenceville, as well as I have 2 event coordinators that we program, manage all of the events that happen in Lawrenceville through partnerships, collaborations, as well as our recast grant. So I know we've discussed that offline several times, but resiliency in communities after stress and trauma. So managing that as well with our program manager, Marcus Thorne.
So how do you balance, though, Jasmine, with you being a public servant leader, how do you balance working as a community development manager? Now you have this new project, Gwinnett Young Professionals. You're going to school. Do you have a social life?
I do.
How do you balance all that?
I am a really big planner. I have a planner that I write down everything in. It's like my Bible in some extent. But it's really important to just rely on the team effort, right? I'm just one person, and so I can't be everything. I can't be all things doing. But really relying on that team, I'm really learning about delegation in my role.
That makes sense.
Yes, I think that it's really important to bring a lot of diverse ideas to the table, and letting the subject matter experts really handle some of those things. And so I'm really learning about that, learning a lot in my role, and the balancing act of it all. I really rely on my planner. If it's not in my calendar, I'm probably not going to be able to attend.
I'm surprised to hear you, and I guess this is a stereotype, but I'm surprised to hear you say that you write it down in your planner versus using some type of technology.
Right.
Because I use notes and things all the time on my phone. What made you decide to write it versus using some type of device to put it in?
That's a great question. Pen to paper really does something to me. I think it's important for me to remember what's going on around me, and so I like to journal a lot. I've always been into writing. So having that pen to paper aspect for me is really what makes the balancing act of it all more sustainable for me. I still rely on my calendar on like a digital platform as well. But I think it's able to sit down and have that moment of control. It's the only thing I really can't control around me, right? It's myself.
Okay, that's true.
So the planner really works a lot. And so whenever I'm feeling stressed or I just need a moment of calmness, I just like to write. So the planner and the journal really help a lot with that.
Okay. So what does community mean to you? Because I know that you love the community that you live in or work for, but what does it mean to you?
Community to me means people. The people that are living in your community, the people that are visiting where you frequent, your downtown businesses, your small businesses, your industries. I think it's really about the people that live where they work, where they play. It really is something as a resident of Gwinnett County to be able to walk through our downtown and just have that relationship with the businesses or with our staff that work here that do an incredible job at just really driving that mission for the city of Lawrenceville.
So in your downtime, if you are walking around in downtown Lawrenceville on the lawn, are you still working or is it truly downtime?
So that's the boundaries part.
Oh, okay.
I have to. I do have boundaries for myself. I really think boundaries are more for you than they are for other people. And so I really try to, whenever I'm walking my dog around the lawn, I really try to take a step back and say, okay, Jasmine, take your work cap off. You're here to just be the neighbor, And so really learning that's also a balancing act in this role.
I can imagine because if I saw something that I'm kind of responsible for from 9 to 5 and I see it and it's after 5,
Absolutely.
I have to at least take a picture or make a note. So
I do.
Okay, kudos
And then
to you.
9 to 5, I'm like, okay, team.
Yes. So where did your love for community building start? Because now as a community development manager, you said that earlier that when you first came to the city of Lawrenceville, you were doing events.
Yeah.
So where did your love for community building start?
So I worked at the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta for about 3 years. And one of the biggest things that they taught us during that time was the level of community building, right? And so how do you reach out to the community that visits Atlanta? How do you connect with them and meet them where they are? And so that was also always fascinating for me. I like to see, it was kind of like the concept of a seed growing into a tree, building programs and really nurturing the heart of community, right? And so that's where my love really, I don't want to say started, but that's where it really grew. In high school and in college, it was always really important for me just to have a village. I think it's always important to have a village around that supports you, that cares about you, and that can call you out when you're not, doing the right things. And so I've always just been a big proponent of community and just being able to connect to people where they are.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Now, we know that the city of Lawrenceville was recently awarded $5 million, $1 million for each year for the next 5 years for the recast. And you mentioned it earlier, but I want us to talk a little bit more about it. And that recast stands for what?
Resiliency in Communities After Stress and Trauma.
Okay, and the grant was given by SAMHSA?
SAMHSA, yes.
And what does that stand for? Do you know?
Substance Abuse Mental Health Services.
Okay. Can you please share a little bit about this program? Because I understand it's an amazing program, and we really would like our listeners to understand.
Absolutely. So recast, like I said, what it stands for, Resiliency in Communities After Stress and Trauma. It is really to work with our at-risk youth and their families. And so providing programs, trauma-informed behavior, civic engagement, community engagement. We have several goals that we really want to build programming out of. So with our Summer of Impact internship program, that was a major role for us that started in 2017, giving students the opportunity, rising juniors, rising seniors, and graduated seniors, the opportunity to have real world work experience during those 8 weeks of the summer. And so the city of Lawrenceville, Impact 46, and our local high schools got together and really built this program from ground up. And so this grant will really help with just the civic engagement within our youth, but also providing resources to their families as well. And so the overall approach to that is, instead of telling the community what we think they want, we really, really wanted to hear back from our community. And so we had surveys that we put out with the students, with their families. We had community listening sessions. We sent email blast out, mailers, just to really connect to the community and just, what are ways that we can improve as a city? What are ways that we can help our youth and their families and our at-risk youth and their families? And I think it's all encompassing from there.
So are you leading this program efforts also?
So it does report to the Community Relations Department, which is the department that I'm housed in. And we have a program manager on site that is also leading the efforts with our sub-recipients as well as the programming within them.
So were there any, thus far, has there been any eye-opening things that you have learned or the team has learned?
Absolutely. So we recently just completed our community needs assessment, and it was really interesting. We were able to interview local officials like yourself and our council women and men. We were able to interview students, and what we learned from that is that students want to be engaged. Students want to be aware of what's happening in their community, but we have to meet them where they are.
Okay.
And I think there are times where, as young professionals and seasonal professionals, we think, oh, well, this is what the community wants. This is what we need to put onto the community instead of really listening. And so during our community needs assessment, we learned a lot during that time. And I think the biggest piece of that was that, the program that we have can be better, but there are also things that our students really want to see and they want to be a part of, and let them drive that force.
What are some of the things that you think will be some of the outcome or the results that will reflect by just listening to the students?
Yeah.
What is something that they are asking for?
Youth council has been a big one. Lawrenceville does not currently have a youth council. We are working towards that, but not a youth council that is only able to impact policy, but a youth council that is also learning financial literacy, learning business, learning about really and truly what civic awareness, civic engagement truly is. And so some of the outcomes that we're hoping to get from this is that we have more students who are at risk and that are also not at risk. Being able to impact their families in a way where they're able to learn from us, we're able to learn from them. So very, very symbiotic relationship.
So do you think the results will have a bearing only on the city of Lawrenceville, or will it impact Gwinnett County or maybe any of the 15 other cities that are in Gwinnett?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be like a halo effect. And so I think as you see other communities, and we even now currently seeing other cities doing really great work with their students, with their young professionals, with their professionals, you see, okay, I want to learn from you, and how can we replicate that in our community, but also how can we make it our own? And so I feel like this grant will definitely be able to be a proponent of that as well, and be able to be that halo effect where other communities are able to work with one another and share their concerns, their downfalls, but also their wins, and how we can work together on that.
So often we hear a scripture that says line upon line and precept upon precept. So since this is the first year for this program, what will be building on the next 4 years left of the program? Like, what are some things that will be built? What are some of the things that you hope to accomplish or other goals in the next 4 years?
Absolutely. Providing resources for mental health is really big. I think sometimes the stereotype of mental health, people don't always want to talk about what that really looks like. And so our students who have lived in this pandemic of a world and have gone to school with masks and all of the different things of that nature, it's really important that we address that with them, but also give them practical tools for them to be sustainable in the future, right? And so what we're hoping to build off in these next 4 years are, like I said, trauma-informed behavior practices, civic engagement, as well as community engagement, learning what's in their backyard, but not only with the students, with their families as well, bringing mom and dad in, their siblings in as well. A lot of students, when they go home from different events, volunteerism, things of that nature, they want to share about what they've done.
Sure.
So we really want to make sure that as we're working with our students, working with our community, that they're sharing, and then it grows from there. So over the next 4 years, that program that will come out of there, our engagement committee, even our internal staff, right? I think a lot of times we talk about the external voices,
right,
but the stakeholders that are actually behind what makes a city really thrive are our employees as well. So really tapping into our employees, getting their sense of how, making sure that they feel like they belong, and hearing their voices as well. So there are a lot of different things that we're hoping to accomplish out of the next 4 years or 5 years, but we know that it's a growing grant. And so what we're hoping for is that the programming that grows out of this is sustainable. That's the biggest piece of it. So whatever comes from this, it's going to be sustainable for our community, for Gwinnett County, and hopefully for Metro Atlanta.
Yes, and we definitely appreciate that.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit more about things happening in the city of
Okay.
Lawrenceville. I'm sure you are busy preparing for spring and summer events.
Yes.
So what's in store?
So we have a lot of events coming up this summer and this spring. And so our We just kicked off our St. Patty's Day event this past weekend, which was really great. It was very cold, so if anyone was in attendance, I'm sure they were bundled up really nicely. We had s'mores. It was really nice. But in the spring, we have our Paw Fest, which is in partnership with the Gwinnett Humane Society.
Right.
And then we also have our car show, which is in partnership with Beyond the Ribbon. And so those two events really kick off our spring time events. And then you have our summer, May through August, we have our summer concerts, our Feature Fridays, free comic book day. And so we really try to have a lot of events where community can come out, diverse lineup in our bands, just having our event coordinators who are planning, detailing, and executing all of these events. They're very creative. And it's really cool to see what they can do when you give them a budget and they're able to work with partners in the community, work with our downtown businesses. I think that's a really big thing as well, because we really want to promote just our businesses here in Lawrenceville through workshops and development leadership series and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last year, I remember meeting several summer interns in the city of Lawrenceville. Throughout the month, they were everywhere, to be honest. They were at ribbon cuttings and they were at different events that you have. So will you use any students this year, and in what capacity? Will it differ from anything? Will it be some of the same students coming back, or has it opened up where it will be totally new students?
So all of the above. We'll have new students so right now we're currently in the process of recruiting students for the Summer of Impact. And so that begins June 1st through the end of July. And the students that work in the city of Lawrenceville, we have 5 internships available. And so we have our planning and development department, which is a new field. And then we have electric, fleet, marketing, and events. And so the students, we bring them everywhere with us because we really want them to immerse themselves in what civic engagement really looks like. A lot of these students have no idea that we have a fleet department, don't even know that we have a finance department, and that finance can also go in tandem with local government budgets, and so, but we do have a lot of new businesses participating this year as well, which is really great. And so I think the program has grown so much from 2017,
right,
and this grant has really helped with the marketing aspect of it. We have a new website that the students are able to go to and actually apply instead of having to turn their resumes in like we have in the past with just a hard copy resume.
Is this a paid job for them?
It is.
During the summertime?
It is.
Great.
And so all the students receive about roughly $8 to $10 an hour, mostly $10 an hour, which is really nice. And so a little pocket for them and pocket change for them for the summer, I think, is really nice.
So why do you think it's important to allow youth to shadow you and the other leaders in the other departments that you mentioned in the city of Lawrenceville?
I think it builds awareness for them. A lot of our youth, and I can admit to this, when I was in high school, I was not thinking about what was happening in the community around me. I was really focused on my friends, on running track, and on my schoolwork.
Sure.
And so when you are immersing yourself in local government, you realize there's so much more and so many more opportunities out there for me. And maybe you're thinking on a small scale, like, I want to be in marketing, but what does that look like? And so really having these students shadow us, having these students work with the city of Lawrenceville and other businesses around the area gives them a sense of real world work experience. They have to clock in. They have to manage.
They have to show up.
They have to show up, exactly. They have to actually interview for these positions as well. And so we go through a week-long process, resume building, mock interviews, so that they actually understand the concept of what it means to interview and apply for a job. And so these students work really hard throughout the summer. They also have a Wednesday workshop where they build a community plan. So it's a really great work for them because they're able to show ways that how they want their community to be shaped. What do they want to see for the future of Lawrenceville? And we take that at the end of the summer and present it to our council, and they're able to meet with local officials, which is really nice. And so these students are really, really great, and it's just given them the opportunity to be even better.
Okay. You could have found an opportunity anywhere to work. What made you choose Lawrenceville?
So it's interesting because I really wanted to work in events. I was really from the Chick-fil-A College Football Hall of Fame. I had worked in guest experience and events, and I really wanted to learn more about that grassroots level of impact, like I said. And so found a job with Lawrenceville, I will be honest, in the beginning, I was combative to local government because you realize, and I don't even think it's local government. I believe that you go to school, young professionals, we go to school, and you really want to find a job in your field of study, and that's your focus. And you don't realize that there are other opportunities out there for you that can leverage those same skills you're getting from your degree in other ways. And so I think I was more internally combative. But as I've talked to my mentors, my sponsors, my family, I realized there's so much impact here at the grassroots level. And I would say within a year, it was, okay, Jasmine, be open to the blessings that are here. Be present in the moment. I'm very future oriented.
It sounds like it.
Yes, I'm someone who is thinking 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead. And I've really worked hard on being present in the role that I have, and so that I'm able to really be my best self, be my most authentic self. And I love my job because I'm able to meet with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds.
Absolutely.
And it's really beautiful to just see what community really looks like, and my vision of community, how that's grown over time as well.
So in all of that, what challenges did you and others on your team face over the last 2 years when you thought about events and community building and everybody was going through the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic?
Absolutely. That's a great question. When the pandemic first hit, our team was in the midst of St. Patty's Day. We were planning for St. Patty's Day. 2 days before the event was supposed to go off. And so our team had really, I think we have been the most creative in the past 2 years. And I think what this pandemic has allowed for us to do is take a step back and look at the events that we've had, look at the programs that we've had, and say, okay, what do we need to adjust? As a community, what does our community want to see? How can we use this opportunity to really be creative in a way that is using the voices from our community? And so we hit the ground running. We had drive-in movies. I think the element of the past 2 years have been really hard on on everyone. Even if you weren't infected or affected, you were still affected in some way. And so really being able to be creative with that, really being able to work with our team, and we're very cross-departmental. And so it's really important for us to make sure staff-wise, everyone's okay. And so really being able to work with our community and our staff to just make sure that as we're moving forward, we're thinking through and really taking a step back and looking at the things that we've done in our past. How can we be better for the future? Okay.
So I'm grateful for the work you're doing to build community in the city of Lawrenceville. Let's take a quick break for some very important announcements.
Hi, I'm Tiana Garner, Clerk of Superior Court. I'm excited to share that the Clerk's Office is now a passport acceptance facility. Residents can apply for a passport from 8:30 a.m. until 4:00 p.m. Monday through Friday with no appointment necessary. Passport photo services are also available for an additional fee of $10. For a list of all fees, acceptable forms of payment, and necessary documents, please visit the passport section on our website at gwinnettcourts.com. Our office is located at the Gwinnett Justice and Administration Center in Lawrenceville. Now, back to the conversation.
Thanks for sharing those announcements. Beyond the city, you're very involved, as we stated earlier, especially in Gwinnett's Young Professionals community. You serve as the current chair of Gwinnett Young Professionals. Can you tell us about the program?
Yes, and so Gwinnett Young Professionals is housed in the Gwinnett Chamber, and we have 5 signature programs: Grow, Connect, Impact, They Party, and Journey. And so the overall goal is to champion young professionals, really through connecting with peer-to-peer, business insiders, morning mixers, and really just having that leadership development for our young professionals.
Now, Gwinnett County is the most diverse county in Georgia and the most diverse in southeastern United States. In your role as chair, what programs or processes or are you leading or bringing to the table to increase diversity in Gwinnett through the Gwinnett Young Professionals?
Yes, that's a great question. All of our programming is really with diversity and inclusion in mind and meeting people where they are. And so spreading out our events, not only having events in Lawrenceville and Sugar Hill and Suwanee, but also looking in our South Gwinnett area as well. But also partnering with the Gwinnett Chambers on their DE&I Summit. Last year we hosted a continuing that conversations summit as well for young professionals to really have that peer-to-peer discussion of what diversity and inclusion looks like as well. And so it's really important for us to meet young professionals where they are, but being the most diverse county, really having that group, just a great group of young professionals who feel like they belong, and we want to champion those voices.
So what are some of the things that may have come out of that conversation? What are there any things that were any issues or any action that really changed maybe something the way it was previously?
Absolutely. I would say for our board, with our committees, really having that thought process in mind. When we're building out events, programs, when we're building out surveys with our committees, what can we do to further include different voices in the table? How can we further our mission of championing those young professionals? But also how can we always make sure that inclusion is the first forethought of mind.
I'm gonna go back to something you said earlier about the morning mixer. And when I found out that was one of the things that you do host, I was like, I thought, and this is a stereotype probably, young people didn't get up. Isn't that like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock?
That's totally me. Morning, yes. And so it's interesting because we have a good bit of people that come to the morning mixers. They enjoy that because it's a time in the morning to really connect with your peers. You think about your day as a young professional, we don't always all have flexible days. And so being able to wake up first thing in the morning, it's once a month, so you don't have to do it every day, and go to a local coffee shop, go to a hotel, or learn about a business. We've had morning mixers at Raina's coffee shop here in downtown Lawrenceville, Boulder Creek, and really being able to introduce people to different businesses that are out there. It really does bring out a good number of individuals who truly love that peer-to-peer connection.
So with Gwinnett Young Professionals, do you see many people who really want jobs that are hybrid? Is that a concern to some of the young professionals here in Gwinnett County? I mean, I know they work in different sectors, but is that a concern, or the 9 to 5 is good for them?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there are people, it's all about flexibility, right? And keeping up with the times. I think if anything, we've learned during the pandemic that a lot of people can still work from home and get their jobs done. And so being able to have that is an extra benefit to a job, I will say. But also that 9 to 5 role, there's really no 9 to 5s, you know? As young professionals, we're eager. We're open to learning, and our mentors and our sponsors who continue to pour into us, it's really important for us to give back, you know? And so I think that young professionals who love that work from home environment or that hybrid environment, they find roles within that fit them. And so I think what's important is finding jobs that fit you and not the other way around. And so you want to be your most authentic self when you're in your career, in your roles. And so with young professionals, I believe that we're just really pouring back into what we really, really want at the end of the day. And that's really just true growth within ourselves, true leaders that really pour into us as well. And so that hybrid feel is an extra added benefit.
Oh, this is refreshing. I'm from the baby boomer generation. And so young and up to now, we always looked at life a lot in jobs as far as for a career. We're going to stay with that company 20 years, blah, 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 blah. But we know with young professionals, you may not look at a certain job as a career more than 3, 4, 5 years. Can you share with me why, or what is it that you look for that may be different?
Well, I think in different seasons of your life, certain things move you more and drive you more than others. And so one thing I would say about young professionals, and I can only speak for myself here, but as I'm in my career and what I love to do, I feel that as soon as something, you want to be in a role that really highlights your strengths and works on your weaknesses. And I've been very fortunate to have a career and have my role with the city of Lawrenceville, where I have mentors and leaders who really do pour into me, but also say, okay, I know your weaknesses, let's work on those as well. And sometimes those are far and few between. And I've been very blessed to have that. And so I think that young professionals will stay when they feel valued, when they feel heard, when they feel like their voices matter. I think there's levels of imposter syndrome within ourselves that we have to also work on. But I do believe that, young professionals are eager to stay somewhere when they feel valued. And I think that the culture of a company is really what hones in on that.
I am enjoying speaking to you. But what is an imposter syndrome?
And so, and I've suffered from imposter syndrome, but it's being in spaces where you feel like they're not meant for you, or where you feel that you don't belong, or you are not worthy of being in these spaces because you don't have this extended career, or and things of that nature, right? You're with seasoned professionals who have, they've worked so hard to get to where they are, and you may feel that you can't relate because you're not there just yet, but you're getting there, right? And so I think sometimes as young professionals, we get in our own way, we get in our own head, but we do belong. Our voices do matter.
Absolutely.
And our seasonal professionals pour into us, and they want to hear from us, and we're the next generation workforce. And so we belong to these spaces, and we deserve to share.
We do value, and of course I can only speak for
Absolutely.
myself, but we do value young people and
Absolutely.
ideas that you bring forth and the innovation. It may take me 30 minutes to do something that you can do in 5, and you're just like, okay, next. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So why is it important to have a strong network of young professionals here in Gwinnett County?
Gwinnett County is booming. It's growing. And to be able to have your peers that support you and can relate to where you are in your career is so important. That village that we've talked about earlier and offline is so important to have around you as you're going through your career. And it helps just, with the imposter syndrome, or it helps with just decision making. I've learned a lot from my peers through delegating and through just sharing about my role and what I'm doing. And that's a really important thing. And there are young professionals here in Gwinnett County that love Gwinnett County just as much as I do. And it's great to be able to listen to what they're doing about their career fields and how that ties into what you're doing on a day-to-day.
Okay, I am a District 4 commissioner in Gwinnett County. And so my average age for my district, which covers the new area, will be from Sugar Hill through Brazelton, is 34.5, which I found it very surprising. And some of the concerns that I've heard with young professionals have been around housing, but in a different way. What are some of your perspectives about housing? Are you looking to buy a house right now? Are you looking for things where there's entertainment? What are some of the things that we can do to also help young professionals to want to stay in Gwinnett?
Absolutely, that's a great question. I love the entertainment factor of where I live. That downtown experience without having to go into downtown Atlanta is really important to me. And housing, I would say, I think there's this stereotype of just renters and things of that nature. And so as I rent right now, I would love to buy a home one day. But I think what's important to me right now is being in an area, okay, I want to set foot in an area where I can be entertained in the process of that, right?
Okay.
The examples are going to a show at the Aurora Theater, or going to a brewery. It's being able to have that feeling of entertainment while you're in your area where you live, and that convenience level. It's really important as well.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
How can young professionals who are just learning about this program get involved?
I would say follow us at Gwinnett Young Professionals on all of our social media channels. We have events every single month, from morning mixers to business insiders,
Right.
like I said, as well as our volunteerism is really important too, through our impact committee. And so I would say follow us on our social media channels, so that you can just be well up to date on what's to come. That's really important.
So we talked about all the positive things, and we don't want to really dwell on negative, but what challenges might young professionals face in Gwinnett, and how can we work to solve them?
Yeah, I think going back to what we talked about earlier, that imposter syndrome, right? I think that what's really been great is that when young professionals step in a room, being welcomed, I think, is a really huge factor for us. And I feel welcomed when I walk into spaces that are with seasonal professionals, but I think that it's that comfort of networking, right? I think networking can be a scary word sometimes.
Really? I love to network.
I do too, but I will say that when I first started in my career with Lawrenceville, my previous director said, "What don't you like?" And I said, "Networking." It's a very scary word sometimes, but being able to have leaders who really want to pour into you and push you to grow those weaknesses, right? It's really important for us. And so I would say continue to pour into young professionals, continue to listen, continue to open spaces and open doors that, just to give them the opportunity to show up as their best and authentic selves.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah.
So in our last episode, I sat down with the legendary Beauty P. Baldwin. Now, she shared some of her mantras of always following the golden rule. She believed in treating others the way you wanted to be treated.
Absolutely.
Is there a mantra you follow?
Yes,
What
I
is
have
your mantra?
multiple. Everything I touch will turn to gold. I truly believe that, and I believe that people should say that to themselves. When you love what you do, when you're passionate about what you do, whether that's in your career or whether that's through volunteering or whether that's just peer-to-peer or mentorships and things of that nature, just know that everything you touch will turn to gold.
Oh, that's nice. One of my personal mantras is all that any one of us need is an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So maybe when they have the opportunity, they could turn around and touch something and it'll turn to gold.
Exactly.
There we go.
First
Teamwork.
step.
There we go. So what's your advice for other young women on the rise?
I would say that we belong. You belong. And, in spaces where there are not a lot of us, it's okay because you belong to be there. So never doubt yourself. Show up as your most authentic self. Speak up. Your voice is your power.
I remember when I first became a commissioner, I walked into a room because, as many people know, I was the first African-American county commissioner. So the room did not necessarily reflect a lot of diversity. And so I went around giving my resume because I did not realize in that moment in time the value that I was bringing and just being my authentic self. I was like, I don't know you, but everybody did know me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know them. But I understand now, of course, 4 years later, that I bring value and
Yes.
ideas to the table and that everyone in the room can share input. So that's
Yes.
good. So what's motivating you right now in this moment?
I would say my sense of passion. I really do love what I do, and I love that no day looks the same for me. But I also love the people that pour into me, and so I'm very grateful for my village. I think that's my driving factor every single day. I wake up, it's a new day. I have a village of people behind me that truly do love me and support me, and so that's my driving factor.
That's one of the things I have going to. You always have a village, and here's another nugget. If you don't have a village, you should always create a board of directors.
Yes.
And so often people don't realize, but in your own personal space, it's okay to contact someone who may be an expert that you know in finance, this, that, and the other.
Yes.
And you can create your own board of directors their personal goal is just to help you get better.
Yes.
So we're going to wrap it up soon, but I
Okay.
have one more question that we would like to ask.
Okay.
If someone was visiting Lawrenceville for only a few hours, where would you take them?
Ooh, okay. I would take them to one of our robust and delicious restaurants. We have a very diverse group of restaurants that is exciting, so they would fall in love with any and all of them. And take them to a Aurora Theater show at the Lawrenceville Arts Center. And then we would go to the lawn and just hang out at the lawn and see all the community members, our neighbors that are walking around, as well as just drive them around to our college corridor to show them that we can actually have cradle to career here in Lawrenceville and here in Georgia and here in Gwinnett, sorry. And so there would be a lot of different activities that we would do, but those would be my top 3 things.
Before we close, where can listeners go to find out more about resources and networking opportunities for young professionals?
I would say please follow us on our social media channels at Gwinnett Young Professionals, as well as GwinnettYoungProfessionals.com.
Well, Jasmine, I would like to thank you for joining me on the Better Together podcast. To keep up with new podcast episodes, follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or visit the podcast section on GwinnettCounty.com. You can also watch the video version of the podcast on TV Gwinnett and Vimeo. Until next time, always remember, we are much better working together.